as long as the, as long as it's not a cityscape. That's
I
all.
like flowers. Should I just, if someone gives me, that's not landscape.
Yeah.
Next to art, nature, and landscape. Something like that. So it'd be a bunch of-
All right, can you guys online hear me?
Yes.
That's good. And I should be able to hear you too. This is the microphone.
Super. How many images do we have? Across?
60 to 70.
Okay, great.
For Millburn, assigned B landscape. Morning frost.
Okay, so we have a composition that's not quite 50-50. You have almost 2/3 land and 1/3 sky. It pretty well. Don't be afraid to crop the sky even more if it's not helping you. I'm not saying it necessarily needs it. A
Your morning frost?
lot of times,
That you heard morning frost?
starting off, I think have the whole sky, and if it isn't like super exciting, sometimes you could just get rid of it. But what I like is the different layers that you have, the trees, this kind of distant darkness of the layers of the clouds here. I think the range is pretty good for black and white. There's a kind of what I feel like is missing is not like a clear, distinct element. It's kind of like a lot of elements, so it's a little bit much for my eyes without knowing exactly what to hold on to. The more I look at it, the more I think you probably would do better to crop it about here. Then the bright clouds will be a focal point for you. But I'm going to look at it again. So I'm going to give it a 7 for now. Okay, so a couple really nice things going on in this picture. The separation of elements. You stood very intentionally so that you had space between the pilings and the rocks. And it's getting a little close here, but there's a little blue there, so there's a little breathing space. I like the way that the sky and the water kind of merge. It's hard to really know exactly where one starts and one begins. It's got a bit of a dreamy feel to it. The lighting is interesting. It's kind of a side light. So you have these nice definitions from dark to light without blowing anything out and without having too much darkness in it. I think you crafted a very nice image. 7. Autumn morning. Okay.
All right.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Yep, no worries.
Distracted by
Yeah,
this. I don't
no
know why
worries.
it's coming up like-
And just a little technical thing, like if you have a picture that's got a dark area, you'll definitely want to put like just a little thin little white border or some kind of contrasting border so that the dark image doesn't blend in with the black background. It just makes it easier to see where your image actually starts and ends. A lot of things going on here. This color is gorgeous. This time of day that you caught the color was really nice. I like the light and the dark together. This part is a bit problematic because it takes up about a 1/4 to a 1/3 of the image, and it's not really either detailed enough or got an interesting enough shape, except for the top here, which is quite nice. I feel like it's just too much contrast and dark in comparison with what's going on. Not really sure. Probably maybe if you just took it a little earlier, you would have had a little light there. It's possible in post-processing you could lighten it up a little bit so that it's not just kind of like a black hole that your eye falls into. 6. Yeah, so the light exposures are really nice with both the sky and with the water in this picture. It does create that kind of dreaminess similar to the other one. I particularly like the separation with this really bright area here. It gives it a sense of depth, like the top and the bottom are leading to that horizon line, and the little darkness in the cloud is a bit like a vignette to kind of give that sense of depth with this diagonal pointing into it. I'm curious how it would look with this cutoff here. I don't think it necessarily needs it, but I'd be curious to crop it and see how that looks. Because it looks a bit like it's floating rather than connected and grounded to something. But I'm not going to score against that. 7. Oh, that's good.
And get this to go away. I won't be able to get it back.
Ryan's the man. 8. 9. 8.
Sign B landscape, honorable mention, morning frost, Alpha Gucci. Jetty, Fernando Gomes. And equal merit, pilings, Fernando Gomes. Cranford-Millburn assigned A landscape. Vineyard.
Okay, nice composition. I like the balance of land to sky. I think that works well. This little bit of red mixed in here gives a nice base and kind of a jumping off point for the eye. The levels that are inherent in the landscape, horizontal mostly, but punctuated by the plants. It gives a lot of visual interest to me, kind of a little excitement graphically. The house is placed nicely in conjunction to the curves. You know, the lighting was pretty flat. It was probably, you know, a clearing storm, a misty morning. It would be interesting to photograph this scene at different times when you had a little bit of a nicer light. However, I don't think it's necessarily bad because you have a lot of nice, I mean, it's not bad, it's good. I mean, it's not necessarily a bad time of day because you have a lot of contrasts from light to dark and shapes in there. 7.
Sunset.
Okay, the silhouette of the grass is very pleasing. This part here is just gorgeous. The dark against the light colors, and even how these kind of point towards the sun. There's just something very lovely about that. Just a reminder again, you're going to want to add a little border when you have a dark edge. My practice when I do Photoshop and I'm getting my pictures ready for competition and printing is I'll look at them on a white background and I'll look at them on the black background, and I notice different things. So for example, if you put this on a black background in Photoshop, you might notice the merging of the edge and how dark it is. If you put it on a white background, you might notice something different. It's just a good practice to do because you really do notice things in one context and not the other. It's really grab straight into the sun without blowing it out like that. It's I do feel like it's a little too much just empty pixels of brightness. I know it's really hard to not do that. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll just take the littlest bit of yellow brush and just put a little color in there, or I'll take something here and I'll clone really lightly just so it's not like a white vortex just pulling me in. And I think in this picture, which has a lot of nice things going on, I think that bright sun just kind of kills it. You might have even just eliminated the sun and just gone with the silhouette shot here like that. 6. Read it, see if you could play around with it.
Florida marsh.
Interesting choice in black and white. There's a lot of mid grays with a bit of difficulty seeing the detail in all the mid grays. The nice bright, I like where it stands out against the light, the nice bright. I can appreciate the shapes of the trees a little bit better. It has kind of an interesting like etching quality to it though. So I'm hesitating a little because if I interpret it a little more artistically, which I tend to do, I think it works. If I'm looking at it a little more documentary-ish, I think it's just a lot of gray that I can't really distinguish what's going on in the shapes. But I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt because I think in a lot of ways, I think it works. It would be really neat with like a metallic kind of frame and this whole kind of silvery look to it. 7.
Sunset at the bay.
I was there that night. Actually, I'll show you guys later because I photographed that sun. Not exactly this spot, but yeah. So sometimes, and like nights like tonight, last night when we have all this atmospheric haze from the fires that are going on out west, you can photograph right into the sun and actually get detail. I don't know that it's great for your eyes, but you know, you can kind of judge if it's too bright or not too bright. But I think this works well with the distinct ball of the sun, the layers that you have going horizontally. Really interesting sky that night. 7. I like this little landing pad right here, by the way. It's just a little anchor for the picture. 7.
Through the woods.
And over the river. That's green. It's an abstract to me because I mean, I can imagine there's a path through there, but it's really hard to see. And I almost feel like I'm in the water swimming through all this color. I'm not sure it pulls off as a picture that has enough going on in it, though. I mean, the different tones of green are really nice. I think the issue is that it's so contrasty, so much light, so much dark, and not really any particular distinct shapes. I mean, if you're doing a color study, that's one thing, but for me, I think it's just too much going on without enough going on, if that makes sense. Enough distinct going on. 6.
Seascape.
It's interesting to have these images where you have something close and something far. It definitely gives your eye a workout because I'm focused on, you know, the building, the bird. I kind of go back and look at the interesting ocean in the background. And you had to make a depth of field choice. You had to decide what f-stop to use. And the background is not in focus. It's not in focus. It's a shallow depth of field, which is unusual for a landscape. Usually we have the background in focus. That's what we're looking at. But it does give an interesting, like I said, workout for the eye. To me, more of a pictorial than a landscape. I think that the harshness of the light takes away, though, from this image to be really enjoyable. I think a little bit later in the day and maybe a little bit more depth of field would kind of help pull it together. 6.
Happy trails.
Okay, lovely color contrasts, yellow, green, blue, kind of all working together with the nice movement, diagonal movement of the fence through the image. There's a lot of really pleasant things to look at here. The leading here, you know, sharp in the back, sharp in the front. I might have cropped it a little bit more off the front. I'm not sure these grasses really do a lot for you, but you had a lovely sky that afternoon or morning. 7.
Little Egg Harbor.
I wanted to get there. It looks so interesting. It's almost an abstract, you know, it's a line study. I always appreciate when a person stands in a place where there's separation. So you get this kind of orderly feel of that, but then there's all this that water movement that kind of makes it a little like quicksandy or something. I like that tension. It's neat. I don't know if you put this like vignette or if that's just where the sun was, but I kind of like it. I kind of like the light leading into the dark. I think this one you could probably process a lot of different ways. I think it works though. 7.
Monolith.
You found an interesting stump. Maybe something was in it, maybe not. I think if you're, a suggestion would be if you really want to feature that as a monolith, to like get up really close, go down to the ground, use a super wide angle lens, so it really feels like it's looming over you. As it is now, like there's this whole fourth at the bottom of the image. It doesn't really do anything for you. It's not, it's just there, you know, like I think that you just needed to stand in a slightly different place to feature what you found. Possibly, and wait for a little better lighting as well. 6.
After the storm.
Okay, lots of water coming over. A very attractive building with the red, you know, and you have a nice day with the green and the blue. All the colors work together very well. It's kind of an afternoon shot. I'm looking at the clouds here. I think it's a little bit overexposed. I think you lost some detail in the clouds up here. I would suggest probably waiting till the light was a little bit warmer, or just maybe using a graduate neutral density filter to tone the sky down, or see if you could do that so you don't lose the pixels. This is A group, right? 6.
Green K.
Now, just a quick question. Is this on the screen or that's in the picture?
That's in the.
It's in the picture, okay. Really dramatic lighting on the tree. Really kind of cinematic in a way. So that's attractive to me. I bet it would be interesting to see this in black and white as well, because just because you have this dark light, warm light, all these different tones and everything. Since I still don't know what this is from where I'm sitting, it bothers me. I don't know if it's a plane or a bird. You don't have to tell me. I'm just, as a judge, I need to get up closer. Maybe it's a bird coming to land on the tree, but sometimes if something isn't really adding, you just have to get rid of it, even if it kills you, even if it's like a dragonfly and you don't want to, or it's just in the wrong spot, because it's right there, smack in the middle on a bright cloud. So I'm going to look at this again because there's so much good things about it. But if I don't promote it, it's going to be because of that. But I want to see it with fresh eyes again. 7.
Lake Absegami.
Really enjoy the way that you have a super wide angle lens and you're pointing it kind of down, and so that it really accentuates this foreground, which really it's attractive, it's inviting, it pulls me into the picture, the green and the blue, kind of like I'm just kind of pulled into the scene. And it looks like your focus looks good throughout, maybe a little lost way in the background, but the features are kind of small there that it's not really distracting in any way. I hope you used a polarizer, kind of looks like you did, to eliminate the glare. But if not, polarizers are great for landscape photography. They pop the kind of the yellows out of the green as well. 7. Eight. I'm going to say 8, and if you just increase the contrast a little bit so the glare sort of isn't so glary, it might even become a 9, but as it is 8. About 8.
Okay, assigned A landscape, honorable mention. Vineyard, Wendy Kaplowitz. Florida Marsh, Neil Hunter. Sunset at the Bay, Charlene Federer. Happy Trails, Neil Hunter. Green K, Neil Hunter. Lake Absegami, Charlene Federowitz. And Equal Merit, Little M Harbor, Charlene Federowitz. Cranford-Millburn assigned salon landscape. Yellow fields.
Lovely layering. You know, my eyes linger in the yellow and then get pulled in towards the background. The barn looks a little bit dark to me. I think it might need a little bit of brightening up. It's got a lot of visual weight and there's so many other things that are interesting. I guess I would like to see it kind of match a little bit better. Exposure looks good, sharpness looks good. 7.
Low country sunset.
That sounds. Ripples in the water, that's kind of interesting. The sun being off center adds a nice dynamic feel to it, and it's kind of balanced in a way by the clouds and the reflection on the other side. So, I mean, it could almost be 2 pictures, but I like that you've unified it that way. Really pleasant time of the day. It's with the yellow to this color is a little bit rough. Like, I don't know if there's a better way to blend it, but it looks a little like this edge is a little bit too rough. I'm going to give you a good score, but that's just my main feedback. 7.
Or you still paint?
I'm dying to go there someday. Such an interesting landscape. You photographed it nicely, you know, during a kind of a flat light, but not dark. The figure in the landscape definitely gives it a sense of scale and depth, placed nicely. It's interesting how it's like almost like 2 different lightings, but I guess the mountains have the whole different like climate, and you know, the way they reflect the light is completely different. Again, I think this one will look good in black and white as well. If you don't mind me saying that, I like it as it is, but I just, because of the graphic composition and the elements are so strong, I think it would be really interesting to try it out. 7.
Foggy fall path.
Dreamy, imaginative, you know, camera motion, but there's distinct entities there, nice contrast of colors, maybe just a touch oversaturated for my liking, but this is a very, you know, obviously subjective how one would interpret it, just because it's got such a softness because of the movement. The color's kind of hitting me a little strong. But I still like it. I like the light in the center that everything's kind of leading toward, but not blown out light. 7.
Sunset at Bombay Hook.
It's tough with panoramas because they project so small, you know. I like how it's cropped. I like how you composed it. I'm glad you didn't include too much sky for this one. I think personally, it might be actually a little better, a little darker, because you've added details in this area, but it's not really doing much for your picture because I don't really, this is more about the shape and the light, the way the light is, than actually the details of the grass and the trees. So I probably would suggest like just darkening these 2 elements here. I think it might be more pleasant even to look at. Still, you created a pleasing landscape, and I wish I could see it bigger. Maybe computer later. 7.
Autumnal reflection.
It's like how you included the silhouettes of the grasses in front of the very abstract background. You know, it's not created by intentional camera motion. It's created by the water moving and the way the light reflected. So there's a nice tension between the stillness of the grass and the shimmeriness of the water. It's kind of like a Zen to me. Like it's like you know, just focusing on something small like the grass, but with the background and the context, I think it works really great. It's kind of profound at the same time. 7.
Calm morning.
How cool is it that these all kind of lead, you know, everything kind of leads to the tree, but the tree's not in the center. You know, the lines lead there. It's just very consciously directing us your composition directs us to this really nice resting place while giving us places to explore and different textures that are going on here and there. Really lovely composition, handled really well, in my opinion. 7.
Mount Fuji.
Yeah, there's always a choice, like, what do you include the foreground or don't you include the foreground? Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. This works okay. I mean, it's like, it gives a little bit of a base and a little bit of framing. I think if it weren't there, maybe I would just get lost in that midground because there's not really a lot going on in the midground. So it does give me a sense of I'm here, there's something in the middle, and then wow, look what's going on back there. Really attractive light and clouds that go through, and you were lucky to see the mountain poking over the top. Curious what this would look like cropped about this, because this is not really much going on in the sky. I don't really think that much sky is necessary personally. I enjoy the kind of like bright, dark sort of thing going on in here. 7.
Marshall Point Lighthouse.
Had a wonderful time of the day. The pink glow kind of even like the other side of the house. I don't know, it could just be reflected from the sky behind you. So that the palette is very pleasing, pinks and the greens. I don't love all this stuff going on over here. I know it was there, but I guess you feel bad if you got rid of it. Just because my eye goes there and I'm like, oh, what's that? I don't care about that. I like the house. I think this is good. This is good. Yeah, this would be an interesting choice because you could point the camera down and get more of the rocks leading in, or you could point it up and get less of the rocks leading in. It's just so many choices with landscape photography. Probably would have had a little bit less rocks personally, but I think you did a nice job. 7.
Fall morning sunrise.
A beautiful composition, nice flow of the fog through the mountains. You see something, you don't see something, hide and seek, and then you have got the reflection. From my personal opinion, I think the colors are pushed a little too much. I mean, I know fall is magnificent, and as an artist, you can interpret it however you like. But I'm just saying, from my personal opinion, yes, it's bold, but there's the softness going on with the fog and the atmospheric conditions, and I just personally feel like the reds, the saturation is just a little bit over the top. It just makes me feel a little edgy or something like that. But I'm going to give you a 7 and kind of feel it again when it comes through. Also, I don't know if these are like dust spots in your sensor or something like that, or something's going on up here, but my eyes rove around the whole thing and I'm trying to figure out what those things are. So maybe it's just clouds, but you might want to just, use the clones, just get rid of them some way. Okay, 7.
Pointillist trees.
Interesting effect. It's definitely painterly. The sky is a little more like I don't know, something like oil on water or something like that. But and so what's stands out is the light against the dark. But I don't think that there's really enough in this composition to really pull it off. This half of the composition is this thing here, and there's not really anything very interesting in there. I mean, you might have done a vertical or something like that with this part because you have the contrast with light and dark. 6.
Winter surfing.
Now, to me, this isn't a landscape, but do you want me to judge it anyway?
No.
Okay, disqualify.
Daybreak.
You captured this beautiful cloud, this little pink of the first of the morning. It's so pretty, that part, and it's kind of neat how this kind of cloud leads you to that. That's my favorite part of the picture. I'm going to tell you right now, is that cloud. Lovely curve going in, compositionally. I think it works pretty well. The only it's a little bit harsh to me is these lights. I mean, they're on, so you can't get rid of them. I wonder if there's a way you could at least darken some things around there, because I think these trees would have looked better if, I mean, my eyes are pulled here and I'm like, well, so what? It's like orange light on the trees. It's not really that pleasing to me. There's kind of this darkness around the edge. Maybe you intended it, but I think this picture would look better if you did actually lighten up the edges a little bit more. And a lot of times we want to add a vignette, but I think in this picture, it sort of pulls away from what you're trying to do here. I'm going to give you a 6. I hope you try to rework this picture because you do have some really lovely things going on in here. 6.
Winter fog in the valley.
Okay, so it's got a lot of dramatic impact for sure because of the tonal range, the dark, the light, the fog, especially this curve here. It's first, I wonder, is it the lens you used or is the land really curved like that? So it's kind of interesting, you know, definitely a very dramatic scene. Heard a little bit about where you stood because again, this whole section here is not doing anything for your picture. I don't think, I don't know, maybe if you just took a little bit, a couple steps to the right and sort of tilted it a little more. I'm looking at it as someone who has never been here before. I'm seeing this for the first time, so I'm just giving you my impact, you know, what the impact is. But kudos for the drama that you've enhanced, created and enhanced. 7.
Monterey Pond.
Simple, effective, lovely graphic shapes of the mountains, softened by the fog, reflected in the water, the pinks, the blues, a little bit of detail in the trees, but not too much, very natural looking. 7.
Sunflower sunset.
Kind of a landscape, kind of a botany, but I think because the sky is such a big part of it, I'll score it unless you want me to follow that. It's up to you. I'm gonna score it. If it were like a more close up of the flower, I probably would count it as a botany. But because you're featuring the sky, you're featuring the sun. That said, I think the colors for my liking are a little bit over the top. I think a lot of people would actually really like this picture and buy it. I think you should print it on a piece of glass and hang it up in your window. I think it will look amazing. But I think for my liking, the colors are kind of, it's just like a little too much for me. So I'm going to give it a 6, but I still think you could do something with it. 6.
Kent Falls, 3 levels.
One of the coolest things about this picture is the way these grasses mimic the water and the shutter speed that you chose. It's so interesting because it kind of flows and then it continues to flow, but it's not the water. I think that is so neat how you process it so that it looks like that. I like the shutter speed you chose. I like the composition. The colors are like a little bland, but it's not a shot about color really. It's kind of about the textures more, and you did accentuate it. I might maybe darken this a little bit area because again, my eyes there, it's not really anything going on. Maybe you could sort of add a little vignette to kind of really direct the eye through the water and through this great grass that's in the beginning. So I'm just giving you my suggestions. I still like it a lot. 7.
Roaring Waters, number 2.
It's really hard to do long shutter speeds during the bright day, and you had a bright day. I mean, hopefully, you know, probably you use ND filter, or maybe your newer cameras have them built in. You know, it's amazing. iPhones, you could do it with a live exposure. So it's a neat shot. However, I think the lighting, it is just a bit harsh to look at to me. I mean, I think that if you're going to do it, just kind of darken the rocks a little bit. You know, this all stuff in here is really lovely. The textures you achieved, but the rocks just seem to be overexposed and a little bit harsh to me. 6.
15 to risk.
9. 9. 9. 7. 9. 9. I hate to do it, but I'm gonna keep it as 7. Just try crop it or doing something different here. I think you could re-enter it, 7. Again, 7, hate to do it. Just desaturate. 8. 9. 8.
Sign Salon Landscape, honorable mention. Yellow Fields, Arlene Sopranzetto. Mount Fuji, Peter Schmeichel. Winter Fog in the Valley, Peter Schmeichel. Kent Falls, 3 Levels, Alan Stein. And Equal Merit, Low Country Sunset, Peter Schmeichel. Where's Del Payne, Ryan Kirshner. Funky Fall Path, Natalie Gregorio. Autumnal Reflection, Ron Deck. Calm Morning, Arlene Sopranzetti. On Ryan Kirshner. That's it.
Nice job.
On to the open. Cranford-Millburn open with rusted jetty.
It was neat because I had my glasses off. My eyes aren't that bad, but it's so cool when it just like popped into focus like that. Don't do that again. Oh, wow. It's like the blur of the water at the bottom was how everything looked to me, and then the rest came up, but I still get the blur of the water. So that's the contrast between the softness and then the kind of solid wall there. You know, rest looks like that. It's so interesting, colorful. 7.
Curtis JN 4H original flyby.
Great sense of motion in the background. You know, contrast with the plain bright against the dark for the most part. Don't forget that little line so we can enjoy your composition a little better next time you enter if you got the dark background. Nice focus on the plain. Nice, and I think the processing, the colors look great, match the subject. 7.
Where's Del Payne?
Very dramatic place that you went to. The lighting is a little bit harsh. I love this area in the back. I think probably this would be better if you just got rid of some of the stuff on the bottom because it's like bright and dark and contrasty, but it's not really that interesting. Just a little bit of base to set off what you have here would be a little bit better. So I'm going to say 6, but work with this topic. 6. Disqualify.
It's open.
I apologize.
You didn't like the photo.
I've been inverted lately. It's interesting, you know, to capture the moment, to get the sharpness and the focus just right. Lovely depth of field, the background, you know, it's there, but it's not interfering at all. There's some contrast in the lighting because of the shadowing from the birds, but it doesn't interfere. It's really enjoyable image of the snowy egrets. 7.
Snowy Day Cardinal.
It's just strange because the bird looks like it's in the sun, but it wouldn't be snowing like that if it was in the sun. So that's why I'm like taken aback a little bit. But it's very pleasing to look at, and maybe you
put a background on it or maybe not, but I think it's a really neat image. Really curious how you work the lighting there. But the focus is lovely on the bird and it's got a great feel, you know, what people associate cardinals with winter, even though they're around all the time, but 7. That was it.
Well,
Kind of get landscape out of my brain.
yeah.
8. Nine. 9. 9.
Open B, honorable mention, Rusted Jetty, Fernando. Go. Equal merit, Curtis JN 4H, original flyby, Alpha Guccio. Face to face, Alpha Guccio. Snowy Day Cardinal, Alpha Guccio.
Is Al here?
Yes.
Oh, you're out. Al. Oh, yeah. You like things that fly. Planes and birds.
Cranford-Millburn, open A. Curtains up.
Abstract, evocative. That red is, you know, very evocative. That said, it's a little, you know, the softness of it, I kind of wish that there was a little bit more focus. It's very, you know, it pulls me in, but I'm a little unsatisfied because it's kind of like mushy a bit. I'd like a place to have a little more resting for my eyes. And then like this little like fade off here, I think, I don't know, either connect it a little more to this curtain or get rid of it. 6.
White-eyed Vero.
You focus nicely on the bird and you've got good detail on the bird. I think there's too much included in the picture. Maybe you couldn't crop anymore because it was pretty far. You know, if you could, if you have the pixels, you know, it would be better, I think, a little bit more tighter. Not that every bird shot has to be tight because the environment does matter, but I just think there's like a lot kind of extra here that interferes with what you're showing. 6.
Concrete rope.
You could have told me it was like part of a turtle and I would have believed you. So it's an interesting study of texture and the different lighting that you found on your texture on this concrete rope, whatever that is. It's a bit amorphous and I don't think there's, for my liking, there's a strong enough sense of shape. You know, there's like little things included. I mean, if you want to show like an abstract shape, fine, and texture, but I have to be able to connect to it. The viewer has to be able to connect to it a little bit. I think maybe the harsh lighting detracts as well. 6.
Hunting.
Okay, I think the soft light works for you here. You know, you don't have harsh shadows. We're able to enjoy the eagle as it's flying over the marsh. I would tilt the picture so that the horizon is straight. Maybe there was a slope in the land like that, but that's the only distracting thing, even if, I don't know, maybe you didn't like the way the eagle looked. So that's my main suggestion for this one, because, you know, we got the slant here and the slant here, and that's a little, I feel like a good fall off my seat. The eagle's going to eat me or something like that. But I love the inclusion of the environment and the way that you know, showed the detail on the eagle without kind of being over the top. This is A, you said?
Yes.
All right, I'm going to give you a 7, but if I don't promote you, that's fine.
Another puff.
Okay, sharply detailed, tightly focused, very intentional. Here, look at this cool thing. I think it works well against the black. The fading of the stem at the end is a little bit distracting. I don't know, maybe either fade everything a little more or fade this a little bit less. I think it would be helpful. I don't really know. You did what you thought would work. So I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt. 7.
Cactus at Joshua Tree.
A neat specimen. That could be underwater even. I mean, I know it's a cactus, but it's the way that the background rendered kind of blurry like that. It gives it this a little dreamy, and then this like really sharp, not dreamy thing, but kind of fantastic at the same time. So I think that you worked well with the foreground background here. Sharp, no pun intended, where it needs to be. 7.
Bridge to Nowhere.
It's probably just me, but I have dreams about bridges like this. I don't know, like I'm trying to get somewhere and the bridge falls apart. I'm sure it's deeply psychological about something in my life. But I respond to this image because of a personal thing that I have. But just trying to get away from my own objectiveness, which so I like it because I connect to it. The black and white choice that you did really works well with this, broken down bridge. I think where you stood worked really well. This is one image you might be able to crop a little bit more panoramic, but it's not really necessary, just to kind of make the bridge a little bit bigger in the frame. Your processing looks great. 7.
Abstract.
Great if we can have a drink that looked like that. Really cool. I know it's an overused word, but there's a lot going on, but there's not too much going on for me. Sometimes images like this like hurt my brain, but because there's a very simple background, there's the diagonals, and then really interesting things going on in the inside, it works for me. It works really well for me, and I really enjoy the optical illusions going on with the refractions here. 7. Great colors.
Seal couple.
All right, let's all say aw. 1, 2, 3. Aw. Yeah. Wonderful, especially this part in here. A lot of times when you go to see them, the light's really rough, so you have a little bit of over brightness on here, but there's just so much great stuff going on in here that little rim light of light, I'm not going to judge against it. Unfortunately, this boulder kind of is, if that were there, it would be perfect, but when I first saw the picture, I thought that was another seal, so I had to kind of like say, oh, just ignore that. But it's a photo contest, so we're not supposed to ignore anything. It's all supposed to have a purpose if it's in our pictures. You probably couldn't really crop any tighter because these guys are usually pretty far away. So I'm going to give you a 7, but that would be my main suggestion if there was a way to get rid of that. But I don't really know how. 7.
Seeing double.
Tricky. Don't know what I'm looking at, but this is enough of a human form to me that I'm kind of really interested, because it kind of looks like a woman to me in a skirt. I'm really curious what everyone else is. Maybe this is like the top of the hoodie or something, or whatever the shawl is that person or mannequin had on. So it could be like a movie poster for some really crazy movie. I love the colors, all those amber tones of amber. This one you would want like a light color pixel around the edge as well, just to really define it. We really enjoy it better when we see it in rectangles. It looks like a artifact in here, red and green. I don't know. The colors kind of do something weird in there, but I'll look at this one again. 7. I like what you're trying here. I like what you're going for. 7.
Gray kingbird.
Posing for you with the tail all fanned out like that and the wing all fanned out. That's great that you were able to catch the bird, showing off like that. Light's coming from this way, so it highlights some of that. It could be a touch, like half a stop overexposed on the bird, but it's not that bad. And it, with the dark background, it does stand out really nicely. And the fact that he's kind of looking back at you like this backward glance really kind of cinches it for me. 7.
Peony bud.
They're so photogenic, no matter what stage they're in. It's really neat. Here, like, you try to make the background dark, but I don't know if you noticed all these little spots and everything like that. And that's where putting it on a black background really helps, because on a white background, your eyes just like make everything dark. But when you put that black background on, you see all the little bright spots that stand out in contrast to the background. So I think those really take away from the picture. They're just so random. Like, why are they even there? The other thing is, I think the red, it's, if you tone down the saturation on that, you'll actually see some of the veins and the details a little bit better. It's tempting to pump saturation on flowers, but when you dial back a little bit, especially when things are red, actually they look a lot nicer because you can see detail a little bit better. 6.
Flight.
Light of the heron. It's interesting because it's like the same color as the background, but he stands out because you focused it really nicely here. Depth of field works well, so the background isn't too much. The shutter speed was perfect, so you froze him in action. The lighting wasn't super great that day, but it's not bad. And for ones like this, like if everything is kind of the same color, you could add a little bit of vignette just to really highlight where to look. It's not necessary, but it just sometimes it helps make it a little bit more dramatic, and you can separate foreground and background a little bit. 7. Oh. 8. 8. Hmm. 8. You're gonna have to talk to me about this if you're here. 8.
Open. Honorable mention. Hunting, Nellie Stoll. Another puff, James Chilan. Cactus at Joshua Tree, Neil Hunter. Seal couple, Nellie Stoller. Seeing double, Neil Hunter. Flight, Nellie Stoller.
Said she's quick. Okay.
And Equal Merit, Bridge to Nowhere, Charlene Theroux. Abstract, Wendy Kaplan. Gray Kingbird, Charlene Federer. And Sola. Cranford-Millburn Open Salon. LBH smiling for the camera.
Little blue heron. Don't do them so much. It's really neat how you have the green kind of like framing it, within it. It's like the consistency that's around there. It's too bad, like just this little piece got kind of chopped off. But the exposure looks nice. The light's a little bit harsh, but it's bounced out really nicely. Nice angle of the face looking at you. 7.
Morning at Indian Head.
A lot of depth in this image, you know, near, mid-ground, far ground, everything's in focus. Seems like the person is too big, but I'm just, you know, I don't know. Hard to know exactly what, you weren't as wide as I think you are, I think. Must think maybe too much foreground, but being picky. 7.
Gear coming up, number 2.
What a cool angle. See the diagonal of the wheels folding in. You know, you had to make it bright in order to see the detail of the bottom, but I think if in post-processing, you probably want to darken a little bit around here to really have it pop out a little bit. 6. Just looks a little overexposed to me.
Milky Way over the shack.
One of the places in New Jersey you could actually see the Milky Way some nights. So the maker chose to light up the shack so you could see it. You know, it's hard to see it in silhouette because it's dark in the background. And it's definitely dominant. Like this is where my eye keeps falling. Like I kind of personally feel like it's too much bright on the shack. Like it's like, boom, look at the shack here. Oh no, oh yeah, that's right. There's a Milky Way back here. Like personally, I just think it's just too much light that was painted here. But it's really neat that you were able to capture a scene like this. You know, it's not always easy to get so much detail in the sky. The other thing is it's very, very grainy, which is hard to avoid, but for the long exposures on the dark. But I think if you could do some kind of softening noise reduction or something, it would be a little less harsh. 7.
Mature eagle in flight.
Lovely wing pose that you caught. It's really neat to see the curves of the feathers like that, the flight feathers. It's a little bit hard to see the face, but it's light enough against the dark that you can kind of appreciate it. And you had a really bright sky, or you brightened it up to see the feathers of the bird. It looks a little bit over bright. I might have just toned it down a little bit, but I understand why you had to do it so you could see the dark detail in the dark. 7.
Dolomite reflection.
Okay, nice find with pond there, and the tree kind of holding the top and the bottom together in a way somehow. I don't know how, but it just feels like it kind of pulls everything together for me. It's not like the optimum time of the day, but I don't think it's overly bright. I think it's very pleasant. The color's very pleasing. Where you stood worked really well. 7.
Sea greens.
Another awe picture. Must look like greens from the grocery store. Oh, it doesn't matter. I don't know what they are, but yes, cute. I mean, super nice. The really nice focus on the detail. Look at the fat. Look at that fur. I mean, it's so sharp. It's so pleasing to look at. This is in your screen, right? This line going across.
That's
on the
the
screen.
actual physical screen. Yeah.
That's the screen. Okay.
Yeah.
It might be a little over bright on the greens, but I'm not going to score that against you. Look at you can see his tooth and his tongue. 7.
Strawberry moonrise over the Tappan Zee.
Super dramatic. This is, you want to put this on like metal or acrylic or something to make it even like pop in your face even more. I mean, it's just like the shape of the bridge is bold. You know, the moon is. Wait, was it the moon? It's the moon, right? Did it say moon or sun, or did it just said? Sometimes the sun looks like that. I'm sorry. Moonrise. Yeah. Yeah. The sun has looked like that this week. That's caused all of a sudden. Set composition, but it works great. I mean, it's so powerful. There's so much dynamic energy in the diagonals of the wire and everything like that. Really cool image. 7.
Eagle with fish.
Okay, so there's like a little bit of a haze over it, which sometimes if you take your black point in levels or whatever program you use and you just like play around with like making the blacks a little blacker and maybe making the midtones a little lighter, then it kind of like it kind of pops it together like that dehaze slider in photo in Lightroom. What it actually is doing is it's changing your black point, but you can do that in other programs as well. I just feel like it's amazing that you caught this bird with the fish like this, but there's just a little bit of haze, and I keep like checking to making sure my glasses aren't fuzzy or something like that. So it's great, it's good, but I think it could be great with just a little tweak of your contrast between the middle and the dark tones. 7.
Patagonian landscape.
I haven't traveled in so long, and these pictures are making me want to like go globe trotting again. Yeah, look at that. It's really cool. This like pink versus this blue. It's a little pastel-y, but a little more bold. This dark cutting in. I really enjoy this composition a lot. Focus looks super. 7. These mountains come out hazy, so that maker did a nice job.
Grackle display.
Yeah.
I think it's in there.
Yeah. Lovely detail. How iridescent it is. You capture, it's not facing you, but it's turned enough for my liking. Some judges are like, oh, it's got to be at a certain perfect angle, whatever. But I can see its eye, I can see its bill. It's intent on looking at something. It looks like it's about to fly, or with the way it's got some energy in its pose. 7.
Cosmos starburst.
Okay, somebody got down and dirty for this one, or maybe their camera just got down low. It's in the middle, but there's so much going on around it. It doesn't feel static at all to me. It's just this breezy kind of feeling, celebratory with the flowers and the sky. 7. Oh,
One, got to rescore there.
yeah, of course. 8. 7. I think you should recrop it. I'm not sure if it's my imagination, but I kind of feel like there's like a little halo around, maybe from when you were working on the background. I'm not really sure about it though, so I'm going to give it an 8. But that's the only thing. 9. Bold. 8. 9. Yeah.
Open salon, honorable mention. LBH, smiling for the camera, Ellen Stein.
Where'd you find him?
Ocean City.
Milky Way over the shack, Natalie Gregorio. Immature eagle in flight, Ellen Stein. Tasty greens, Ron Denk. Eagle with fish, Ellen Stein. Patagonian landscape, Brian Kirshner. And equal merit, Dolomite reflection, Ryan Kirshner. Strawberry moonrise over the Tappan Zee, Natalie Gregorio. Grackle display, Ron Denk. Cosmos starburst, Natalie Gregorio. That is it.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's really great to see all the variety of work there, and I hope I didn't seem too critical. I've always trying to like give suggestions, so that's why I'm saying everything's right now. Yep.
Okay. Zoom can.
Keep up the good work. So you have, this is the last competition then?
Does anybody who's online have any questions for Jackie? If not, then I'll say good night to everybody.
Good night.